folks still get to come and like see them in the main roles and not just in the ensemble. And
well, we were really nervous coming into that week of performances because one kid goes down and there were no understudies. So
our son's in a show right now, and you know, here's a couple of the solos.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Plenty of talent to cover, but still,
This is a huge, beautiful, chaotic turnout. Thank you all for being here. This feels incredibly juicy. I wanted to thank you all and thank the people who put this all together. My name is Merritt. I'm going to host this show tonight. Tonight we have 2 directorial debuts, which is so thrilling. First-time filmmakers, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. These are like 2 of the most beautiful first-time films that I've ever seen. I watched them today and I was just absolutely floored, so getting cranked about that. We're going to have some post-screening discussions with all the crew members of each. So think of your questions and your celebrations. We'll invite it out to the audience at some point so you can ask your questions and be curious and be celebratory. So think of those while you're watching. A little bit about the program that brings us these movies today. Simone LeClaire, who is a local filmmaker and who's here tonight, ran a free workshop for gender marginalized filmmakers to like try their hand at being in the director's seat. The turnout was awesome, the movies were great, so we'll get a chance to talk to Simone and crew and members of the class. And this, of course, was produced by Moonplay Cinema, which is very, very tenderly shepherded by Jes Reyes, who's going to talk a little bit as well. So big plug for those two people and 2 things. There they are. Hi. We love them very much. So first I would love to just invite up Simone and Jes and some participants of the class to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So if we could have Hannah. I can't see anybody because there's lovely lights, and Victor, and CJ, and Alexis.
So yeah, we wanted to start off so that once we get to the film screenings themselves, and we'll have talkbacks after each of those, and that will kind of be centered on just Hannah and Victor's vision and why they wanted to do their films and what they want to talk about there. But for the opening here, we wanted to have a little bit about just the program that incubated these, like Merritt was saying. This is our first time ever offering this program. It's kind of our trial run. And we do want to do another version next year.
Oh, thank you. Hello. Yeah, just to kind of give an overview. So, I'm Simone, and I'm a film director in town. And the idea for this program was that it was organized, the first portion was organized as a 6-week class, once a week, like 2-hour sessions. And it was just to give an overview for anybody who was curious about film directing, specifically narrative film directing. So like when you're working from a script and you're telling a story. So the program started out with that 6-week class that was really open-ended. People could show up to just like 1 session, or they could come to all 6 sessions. Part of it is kind of like a workshop. If you had a script you wanted to workshop, and part of it is like giving information, like here are the here's the overview of what you need to understand to sort of run a film set in a healthy way. So yeah, just a range of people and experiences and reasons for coming to that class. And then at the end of it, 2 people who had scripts ready and prepared, which was Hannah and Victor, actually received $1,000 from the grant we got from MRAC through Moonplay Cinema to then over the next 3 months make their film. So from script form to what you're seeing tonight all happened in 3 months, which also just deserves its own applause because that's so fast. I've been doing short films for 10 years now, and I think I have like eight or 9 of them, and only like 1 or 2 of those was done in that kind of turnaround. Like that's a very fast turnaround, and you're gonna see the films, they're beautiful already. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to say, especially for the participants of the program, if you could just kind of talk about like your experience, what drew you to the program, what kind of you got out of it, whether you showed up to a lot of sessions or just one or two, and what you would like to see from that kind of programming in future iterations.
Awesome. Hi everyone, I am Jes Reyes and I am from Moonplay Cinema. I am so excited to hear from all of you and the workshop and the experience of making these films. I'm just so excited to be here and be with you all to honor the work that you've created. So thank you. Moonplay started in 2020 and this is exactly the kind of programming that we wanted to bring to the Twin Cities. We're all about radical generosity, visibility, and community, and this is literally what's happening tonight. So thank you.
Should I just talk about your question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Victor. My film Rear View will be showing after this discussion here. And yeah, I took the class. What drew me to it was, well, I had a number of people sort of like send it to my inbox and were like, you should do this. And I, for a long time, very much didn't really think about directing. I've written a lot of short films, and directing seemed hard and scary and like something I didn't think was like my mind would do. So I wanted to challenge myself, and like I'd been talking in therapy about like like not like telling myself I can't do things and like confronting that. Why do I tell myself those things? And then I also really wanted to sort of network and connect with other just like BIPOC or queer, gender marginalized filmmakers in town, and it was a really great experience. I went to all but one class, I think, and then met Hannah, who's also got a film tonight, and then CJ here, who is cinematographer in both films, it was really awesome connecting with people and sort of learning. There are a number of people that like suggested things in the class who I like ended up like using some of those resources when making my film, and it was also just really heartening to like see Simone's sort of take and style on like what's important when filmmaking, and like making sure you're taking care of cast and crew and have food and like being able to maybe like pay for parking or things like that, and like that being in like the sort of like higher on the hierarchy than like trying to get cool equipment or things like that. And just making sure you're running that with like integrity and care. And I know that's not necessarily the norm in like film industry. So that was just really awesome to learn. And I'll pass it on.
Hi, my name is CJ, and I think I attended almost every session except for 2, and it was because I was in Idaho. And the other one, I forgot. But I always, like when I see certain things or like when I experience certain emotions, like in my brain I can like really viscerally, like visually see what it looks like how I want the light to fall, like from what angle I want it to be at. But then I try to recreate it like on my iPhone and it looks like crap. And I think my favorite thing that I learned is that sometimes your taste is just not up to your skill set. And so I feel like this class in particular was a great opportunity to kind of work on that skill set, to just get behind a camera and hold it. Previously, before even like trying anything with film, I'm a poet and writer, and I'm a teaching artist, and so this was a great way to expand like not only like the my ability to like write a story and a narrative around something, but to think about what that would look like visually, which I think was really cool.
Hello, my name is Alexis. I am an actress in town, and I'm familiar, Simone, with your work. In fact, how I met you, joined a project that you did a few years back, and in particular, what stood out to me, kind of like being like my first time like on a film set, was the way you held that space. And the way that you did, in fact, prioritize that, and it kind of took a lot of anxiety out of that for me, and I found that really fascinating. And I say all of that to say that, like, even as an actor, I've always got like all these ideas about things that I want to create, or often finding spaces, finding a media out there that isn't telling my story or I don't identify with, and so feeling even more that sense of energy of like I want to create my ideas and as far as media goes, create something that I can identify with. But I never know like where to start. It's just like ideas, and I really appreciated that. Created this workshop, and it was set up and designed in a way that incorporated kind of like how you held space on your film sets, right? And like how that's important, but also in managing that. I'm like, what's the first step? Like, I'm not a writer, I'm not da-da-da, but that you're able to like break down, like, this is how, like, the way, like, you can start here, like, where you generate ideas, put it in this category, and this kind of, like, almost checklist that was really helpful just to kind of give my mind a foundation or, like, some kind of container, and know that, like, how we treat each other is part of that equation and all these kinds of things. And I appreciated, so I was motivated to like, how do I even do this? Where do I start? And what kind of attitude do I need to have about this stuff? And so appreciated jumping in and be able to get in the workshop and kind of get a closer look at that and have some things spelled out in a way that I felt was like really, not like easy to take in, but it wasn't as intimidating as I make it in my own mind, I should say, yeah.
I found the class through lurking on Instagram, and I saw it was an intro to directors class based, like specialized for marginalized people, and I thought that was perfect. Because I had taken other like film classes before. It's something I've always known I wanted to do, like. Also going back to therapy. My therapist, I don't know if she's here, but shouts to her. I've been talking about like doing something like this for like 5 years, and I just like I didn't know what it would look like, but I knew it was something I always wanted to do because I saw a hole in cinema where like I should be, And I guess like thank you Simone for like giving me the skills and the connections and the people to like actually tell the story and like learn how to be a director and learn how to represent myself and represent the community and others.
Yeah, awesome. I think that. Oh, yeah, thank you. So I think we should just get ready and go forward with the movies. So we have plenty of time to talk about them. But I do want to say for anyone in the audience who is thinking, or even an inkling of an idea that you're curious, you don't need a lot of curiosity to like let yourself follow the things you're curious with. So if you want, if you are interested in making a movie and think that that could be something for you, I'd really encourage to follow along with Moonplay Cinema. You can follow along with me at Directed by Simone on Instagram, and we're going to be doing a similar type of programming in the new year. But yeah, just to close out, this is just a container that we kind of built, and then it's totally the brilliance of you all, the movies. Like this was not like an in-depth skill set. I'm gonna teach you how to da-da-da-da-da. I mean, this is generally a container and check-ins that then kind of facilitated and allowed your own brilliance to like make what we're gonna watch tonight. So thank you all so much for your offerings tonight. It's a gift.
Keep it going, keep it going.
I'll just sit. All right.
I have more. No way standing. All right, hell yeah. Do we feel good? Look good, feel good? Looking good, yes. Feeling good, yes?
Yes.
Welcome, thank you so much. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
Again, more. I would love to hear all of you just down the line introduce yourself and give us some context for your role in what we just watched.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm Rosie Lowe. I was the assistant director for this.
I'm Victor Kirksey-Brown, and I wrote and directed the film.
I know I introduced myself as CJ beforehand, but my full name is Cynthia J. Zapata. That is my artist name, and I am the director of photography, so I shot the film.
I'm Talib Ticker. I'm an actor in the film I played Wit.
I'm Josh Mers, and I edited the thing, and I did sound as well.
Show of hands, who participated in the class, in the workshop? Tight, that's so cool. So how did you get connected to the rest of these three great people? Victor?
Good question. Well, I met Josh. We worked at a movie theater together, AMC.
Which one?
AMC South. We had a few interactions, but one of the first memorable ones was us both quoting the movie Scream, and then we just did that back and forth to each other and quickly fell in love. I met Rosie on a drive back from Madeline Island, I don't know if you've ever been to Madeline Island, but it's a weird place. And it was like a 5-6 hour drive back. That was our like real first meet, and bonded and became very close. And then yes, we met in class, and I think technically met at like Trista's birthday party before. And Talif, I met through posting about looking for actors, and was connected to Rosie in a way, and then we connected through that. Yeah.
Awesome. I would love to hear from all of you about this, but how did this experience specifically fit into the larger body of the work that you do as an artist?
I wrote this in like the beginning of 2020. I can't remember. I think it was after stuff had started, pandemic. I don't really remember. There was a lot of time to think and a lot of sitting inside. I was living with Josh at the time, and we had good times. A lot of my writing is very dialogue driven, a lot of like interpersonal conversations, and those are the things I really love the most. Sort of like, I don't know if you've seen the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, and just things like that like really inspired me. And I had been wanting to write a movie that like took place in, like all in a car for a while, and I had some I had a few different things. I think one of them was just people talking about the movie or the song Everywhere by Michelle Branch. I have a lot of thoughts on that song, and I wrote like a thing that we talked about. I had talked with Josh about like maybe trying to direct or make, but yeah, this I guess how it fits together is like one of the more like, I've done a lot of films with Josh. We've written a lot of things together, and he's directed a lot and edited, and this is kind of the first time I am directing, and just a very different experience on set, and like planning and getting all of that together. Very scary, but it was very fun. Had a really great crew of people to work with.
Yes, I do. I guess I really have done stuff with like stage live theater for the most part beforehand. I've done a lot of stage managing specifically, and I've also acted in a couple of things, but I found the stage managing experience really helpful coming to like the assistant directing experience, and then was also like around a little bit and got to assist in the editing process, and I was like really excited about just like coming into the process of making Rear View and being on the team of like exploring a different a different way of storytelling. So I feel like live theater is, for me, like how I understand it, more like auditory, like it's more like a hearing first, and like film feels more like visual first. So it was cool to, I don't know, see that play out. Yeah.
I read Victor's script while I was getting a cavity filled in, and the dental hygienist was like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a script, and it's really good." And they're like, "Can you tell me about it?" I'm like, "No, because you might steal these ideas because they're so genius." Victor and I, have met through different social networks, like not directly but indirectly, like, "Oh, you look very familiar," and then like getting to read it and saying yes to the project was huge. I even like quit a weekend job to make sure I had the time to do it. I was like, I gotta make sure I'm not working my 9 to 5 and the bartending. That's too much. But I think how it fits into the like larger sort of stuff that I like to do, it was an opportunity to really, for the first time ever, like I said, like both of these films was my first time ever behind a camera, and being able to really just like hold it, crawl, cram into tiny car spaces for certain shots, and I think that it's just such a beautiful story of just like how relationships blossom, how they grow, and how unfortunately over time when things don't get addressed they fall apart, very much like a car. Because if you don't take your car to get your oil changed, what happens? That engine freezes up. But yeah, it was such a lovely story, and I was so happy that I had the time and opportunity to say yeah to helping you with it.
Wow, I love being in this film. It was fun, it was beautiful, and when I first read it, I was like, wow, I really see myself in it. I was like, yeah, because I don't care, I get it, like, I fully understand. But it was really fun and introspective, because it made me see how like I can kind of mimic these kind of behaviors and how they reflect in different relationships that I'm in. And it was like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? And so this is that's a reflection. But I really enjoyed being part of this film.
Big things. I don't know. I think like mostly like where this fits in is just, for me, is just like immense like joy and pride to see Victor make something and screen it here, and like after 10 years of us making stuff together and like being one of the few people I can like successfully co-write with, and one of my just favorite writers and people on the planet, so it's like just incredible. Like it's incredible to see like the reaction, and also like hearing all the stories of through the breakups. Like parts of this is stuff I've lived through, just like conversations between us, and being able to again read it like in the, I think it was COVID, because we both had scripts at the same time. So the second I read it, I was like, this is so great, and I can't wait to see it, and I'm mostly just incredibly happy to be a part of it and then just see it actually realized. It's really great.
I love that. Victor, I have one for you and then one more for everyone, and then it's your turn. So think about your questions. I'm really curious to hear about, I heard you mention about the car setting. Would you just expand on that a little more for us? What felt interesting to you about that?
Yeah, I think it's just like, I feel like there's so many just little moments in life that are like really important that happen, or these conversations that are like in transit or like in the car, or like, and especially when you're like in a relationship, I feel like there's a lot of like either little like cute moments or fights or things like before you get to a location, or things that like happen, and I was really interested in that. Yeah, and I kind of wanted it to feel like contained in that, and and then like kind of using that car as like in the film, Regina's car is like has a lot of things that are sort of breaking down that she's not wanting to look at or address, and that is kind of playing through as the relationship goes through as well, and then it finally shuts down. And just like the things that can sort of happen with being excited with the relationship and how it develops, but then like what happens if you're not maintaining those things.
It's a very cool framework. I love that. I would love to throw it out to the audience now. Any questions or celebrations or?
I got a question.
Yeah, immediately. What do you need?
Victor, how did you end up casting Sky?
Yes. So Sky, it was also so Sky was Regina and is not able to be here tonight. Sky is now living in New York, and they really. Also, like they moved during right before we were gonna shoot, and like flew back to film. So really appreciate it. Yes, but they were one of I had posted online. I think Rosie had posted in the BFA.
We went to the same acting. We went to the same acting school at the University of Minnesota, and I posted in that group that was like the alumni, and they responded. So.
And they were one of our favorite people who auditioned, and ended up meeting with them, had like a lunch, and it was just like, yes, this clicked so well. I think this would be really great, and just worked out. And then it's also Sky and Sky's dog as well as in the film, which they were like so good, so cute to have them on set.
Simone?
Okay, I think this film is so beautiful, and one thing is that it feels so personal. So we don't necessarily know where you came from, but it kind of just has the essence and feel of like some aspect of autobiography. And I guess like when I've made work that is really personal, sometimes something that's interesting is like, what do you discover, or like when you go into it, you kind of have an idea of what you're expressing, and then like going through the process, and by the time seeing the finished film, sometimes might reveal like another aspect of the situation, or like something new is revealed to you in that process of making, or you kind of understand the situation differently. And I'm just wondering if if making the film revealed anything new to you, or if there was some way that in the beginning you were sort of expressing a certain thing, and then by the end that was a little bit different with the movie.
I think in the beginning, when I was writing it, I feel like there was a lot of self-criticism, I think, involved, and sort of like thinking about my own flaws and things and the ways I've been in relationships, and like very like indecisive in a lot of ways, or like things where I'm like not initiating things, or and like have had those conversations or arguments where I'm like, they're like, what do you want to eat? I'm like, I don't care, like whatever, like let's go. And it's just like that, and I've been told by people, it's just really frustrating or stressful, like when I have to pick everything, or like I have to do these things. And so like a lot of it I feel like was kind of reflective on that, and then just drawing from different relationships I've had, or like friends have had, and like pulling those things together. And then I think as with making the film and showing the film, I think that there was a lot more sort of like, I guess healing, or like being easier on myself. I feel like after I showed, like I sent the script to a few people, or like showed a few first like glimpses at the film, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, like I really feel for Wit. I really connect with Wit, and I feel like I feel like people are like, I feel like bad, and I was
over-identifying with Wit here.
And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm okay. I guess people feel like, and that Wit is loosely based on me, and like and so it's like I was like, I guess I found a little more compassion for myself, and like looking back at those moments and like these like instances in relationships. So
that's nice. I like that. Who else? Yeah.
Okay, I find it interesting, like, I saw a lot of the perspective from, like, the camera was showing a lot of Wynn's perspective, but at the same time, Regina was always on the driver's seat, and, like, I think that in both literally with her car, she was almost always in the driver's seat, and also, like, in the relationship, at least in one conversation, it very much seemed like in the relationship, she was in the driver's seat, and there were times where we see Wynn engaging and moving the step forward or moving conversations when she doesn't want. But I really found that dichotomy of seeing it through Wynn's perspective, but always recognizing that Regina is in the driver's seat. I was wondering, like, how much of it was that intentional, or do you have anything to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that some of it was intentional and some of it wasn't. Some of it was just that. So a personal fact, I just a couple months ago got my license in a car. So some of it was just that. So some of it was just like I was always in the passenger seat, and so that like in my relationships, the other person was always driving, and that just was what it was. And then, but yes, I also like kind of intentionally like had that play into the fact of like with the indecisiveness and like not. And sort of like also a lot of like in my past relationships, I did a lot of fitting into other people's lives and like being like I guess a lot of people pleasing, but then a lot of just like I like this person, I'm gonna do whatever I can, I'm gonna put forth this effort that wasn't necessarily always reciprocated, but then also yeah, like always sort of go with I like told myself like I'm go with the flow, like I'm easy breezy, but then it is like yeah, I do have an opinion, I do have thoughts and feelings about those things, and like it is just like it's more difficult sometimes to address that. And then yeah, with Regina sort of like being sort of having a little bit more initiative, but then like that character is like less wanting to like dive into those emotions, not wanting to talk about the things that are sort of like feeling wrong in their life and in their relationship as well.
That's beautiful. I hate to cut it short, but we got other stuff to do. I want to hear from each of you though, what you're working on, what you're doing these days, how can we support you and find where you're at, and what you're up to. Tell us.
Okay, so this is great, great timing, thank you. But what we're working on right now is just the kind of post-production of Rear View, or that's what I'm working on as well. And the way that you can support that, there's an email list on the back table. Please take a moment to just like on your way out, sign up. There's also QR codes posted by the door that leads to the Instagram Rear View, and that will be very helpful as we get it to the final stages of what Victor's vision for the film is to look like. So yes, that's
yes, like continuing on that. Yeah, like we want to do maybe a few more sound things, probably a few more things with color for the film, and then also very importantly want to like be able to like was able to pay everyone a little bit, but want to like pay myself and everyone more money, and then like pay off some of the things we that like I just paid out of a little bit out of pocket for like some of the processing trailers and other things that we had there. So yeah, we were going to be trying to raise money, and then yeah, so like please sign up if you follow. There's like little codes on some of the tables too with like that have the QR codes. So if you can follow the page, Real View Film on Instagram, that'd be awesome. And then yes, please sign up for like email so we can keep in touch and then do that. I guess yeah, mostly working on this. You can find me on Instagram, I suppose. My handle is Hot and Haunted. Yes, I mean there's other film projects I have like scripts and things thinking about, but just yeah, those are things I got.
Yeah, I am still working on a YA novel called BC Chicas, and I'm also working on my own script. And this spring, pending that I do pass this class, I'll be finishing my master's in creative writing and publishing from the university. You can find myself at CynthiaJZapata.com. There's not a lot of stuff because, you know, with copyright you can't like publish your own work because then like publications don't want to do that. But you can find some of my stuff and links to like things that have been published on
And we
my
can
website.
contact you.
Yeah, and contact me
there.
there.
Yeah, great.
Wow.
Wow.
I am an actor in Twin Cities, so like I don't have anything coming up right at this second, but I will. So you can catch it on my Instagram at Tai_blue, TAI_BLU.
And we could hire you also.
Also, yeah, hire me, please.
They're wonderful.
Yeah, I'm working on. I made a short film that Victor's in called Nostalgia that at some point will be finished and come out. I don't know if there's like a way to like communicate that yet at the moment, but someday if you remember my name, I've got an Instagram as well. But,
say it again for us. What's your name?
Yeah, Josh Murs. That's MRUZ.
MRUZ.
If you put those two names together and there's a .com at the end, you can find my website, joshmurs.com.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, the crew of your review. Really brilliant work. Next up, we're going to see the film The Walk by the brilliant and wonderful Hannah. So let's watch The Walk.
There are two.
I have two.
We don't need to share.
We don't need to share. Excess. Opulence.
Abundance.
Luxury. How's it going, y'all? Hannah, thank you for sharing that with us. That was brilliant.
Thank you for giving me the money and the...
I didn't give you any. I don't have money, and I don't want anyone here to think that I do. Hannah, before we jump into what is bound to be a very cool discussion about the arts in general, I would love to just have you give us a little bit of context for the movie we just watched, which you directed.
Oh. Yeah, I had the idea for this movie just like because every time I go out in public I feel like something weird happens to me, you know, like whether it's subtle or overt. Like I wanted to go for more subtle with this movie, like when to use an example like for the teenagers, like when I was crossing the street and then they just like stopped talking, or like when I'm walking behind the couple and they're just like very overly apologetic and stuff. And yeah, it was just kind of an idea that like reflected that every time disabled people go out to do anything, there's this role and this archetype that's already been created for them that's very limiting, and it just shows up in like very subtle ways that you wouldn't even, you know, think about unless you had somebody that you know who's disabled or like you know, are.
Subtle but highly specific.
Yeah.
Like each of those little moments was so distinct from the last. I thought that was like, I felt that subtlety, but it was so clear. So I thought that was a really successful expression of that experience. It was really tight. Yeah. Dope. I would love to hear now from the three of you. For these other two joining us, introduce yourselves and tell us who you are in this artistic landscape of Minneapolis. Me and Trista are going to share.
I'm Trista. I am a writer and I do advocacy for disability and sexuality mostly, and like modeling with that. So I'm very loud on the internet, basically. Yeah, and friends of Gabe and met Anna, and glad to be here to talk about it.
Yeah, Trista. Gabriel?
Should I go?
Yeah, go.
Just take pictures.
I take pictures, yeah. Trista takes pictures also. Yeah. And they're beautiful.
Trista in my phone is just Trista Camera.
Trista.
We had a conversation about this the other day.
You can leave it, it's fine.
No, I will not. My name is Gabriel. I am mainly a musician here in Minneapolis for the last 10 years or so. But I do a lot of other stuff. I do dance, I write, I model, I'm kind of all over the place. And right now, I'm doing a lot of planning for my production called A Cripple's Dance. A live music and live dance production that is performed and created by mainly people with spinal cord injuries and able bodies, kind of an all abilities production.
Tight, really good. Yeah, 3 very cool artists up here. Let's tell you. So Hannah had the brilliant idea of having this discussion with these 2 really incredible artists. So I've got a list of cool questions that Hannah helped workshop with me. And the first was, can you, how do you define ableism? Hannah, do you want to kick us off?
I could kick us off. I think it's hard to define ableism because I think that, like, you know, typically you could it's typically defined as ableness, so like an able-bodied person or like your standard body type. I think for me, ableism like presents itself as a fear of vulnerability or a fear of like people who are more vulnerable than you, different than you, you know, a repulsion to I think repulsion would be a good way to define ableism. How about you, Phyllis?
I guess I'll go. I think ableism is always a sort of shifting and changing thing for me, and I, in part because I think I feel very new to the disability world. I was injured when I was spinal cord injury, and I was injured when I was 15, and I've been injured for about 14 and a half years. So I feel like a 9th grader in the disability world. I'm still kind of figuring it all out. And I think for me, the sort of ableism that I experience, I think presents itself a lot in the 2 things that are coming to mind right now are in public and in my sexuality. I think those are like the 2 really heavy hitters where I feel sort of out of place and uncomfortable and feel like I have to navigate the world a lot. Yeah. And I think I'm really figuring it all out. I think the way that I sort of try to figure it out and understand what it is through art and through music and through like telling my own story so that I understand my own story. Because I think as people with disabilities, I think we kind of have to pave our own path, because I think it was just mentioned that there's this like specific role that's kind of put onto us as soon as we leave the house, and like and so we have to sort of not listen to that and just be like, well, what do I really want? What do I really need out of my own life? And so it's sort of this like thing that I'm always, get the fuck out, get out, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I have.
And it's like sexuality is such an interesting like lens to put it through, and that's kind of why I wanted like Trista up here too. It's like I've just always admired how much you talk about fucking.
Wow. On that note, yeah, for ableism, it's so weird because I am also learning over time, even though like I've been in it for 30 years now. But it's like with all marginalization, there's like this fear people have or avoidance or like discrimination, but unlike other marginalization, there's not a lot of hate necessarily. It's mostly avoidance and like infantilization. So then there's a lot of like, it's very easy for people to avoid or sweep it under the rug because they're like, that's not why I'm like that. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you should probably look at that. But so it's a tricky thing to address, and I think it just takes a lot of conversations from a lot of people. And so I'm glad you made this film.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear from all three of you. How much, if at all, does your like personal identity show up in your art?
Okay. Well, it's kind of a joke now with me and my friends that like my my ass is global. It's like on other like it's just become. I had to put myself in the spotlight to like talk about these things because I had to do things from my own experience versus like talking for other people. And so I kind of had to use, like, objectify myself in a different way instead of the way people usually do it. And I took it to the other extreme where it's like, I'm not a baby, I'm something else. And so I got really loud about sex.
Will you expand on that?
Expand on that?
Yeah.
I need any questions from the audience.
Well, it was like when I'm incorporating a feed shot. First of all, I wouldn't be a real director if I didn't have a feed shot.
Yeah.
And also like.
You gave that to us for free? Come on.
Okay, and also like I'm not, you know, the reason why I wanted that kind of long shot of my legs.
Yeah.
The feet shot. Is because you know, it's like you were saying, you know, it's objectifying yourself in a certain way because, you know, in this society we like disabled people see, but able-bodied people, it's easy for them to ignore how much sex has to do with power, you know, and how much power gets you, you know, you get to like walk on air from it, you know. And it's like if we're gonna start, you know, building real community and looking for actual solidarity, yes, we need sex, but we also like need to understand that it's more than just like your body or like what a body should be. It should be about, you know, you're a better person to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing great. I think a good example, one part in the movie that I laughed at, the film that I laughed at was the baby, because I have like these categories of people's reactions to me in public, and kids are my favorite.
They're so funny.
I never know what's going to come out of their mouth. I know they're going to stare, so is everybody else. But it gave different categories, like the people walking by who they act like they don't notice you because they stop talking. They're like, if I'm really quiet, they won't notice. It's like, I've definitely noticed.
Do you think I'm stupid?
Yeah. And that's kind of the same with everything, especially sex. So that's why I became really loud about it, because of all of the very obvious things that are addressed, like accessibility or just being harassed in public or whatever else like that is one of the last things to be talked about, and it's the one thing that's really, really avoided because it makes people really uncomfortable. And so I just like making people uncomfortable, I guess.
I think, yeah, I think in my, like, I think it's not just sex, it's like eroticism.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, sex is sex, and it's, you know, it's making babies, but it's also the other fun stuff. But there's something about eroticism that is like creative and sensual and deep, and I think why sexuality and disability feel so connected to all of us is because it is the body. Like sexuality, eroticism is an exploration of your body with other people, and it's a vulnerability, a deep vulnerability with your body. And so living with a disability, I think, like for me, I'm still like, I don't know how to be vulnerable with my body. Like sometimes I feel like I can barely look in a mirror and or look at pictures of myself. Like, and I think that's why it's so important, because this is a sort of like eroticism of our bodies, because we need that, because like our bodies are so ugly in the sort of standard society, and so to take the time to eroticize our bodies like gives us power, you know, and
Yeah.
to move forward with our lives. And yeah,
It's like art is innately, like you're saying, erotic or like sexual, so it's like kind of the only avenue that is available to us.
Right.
Yeah, and like ableism is inherently like deeming someone subhuman and like dehumanizing, so then to also like confront the ableism and sexuality, then it kind of gets to like the deep root of things, because people are already in general uncomfortable talking about sex. So then when you add ableism to it, they're like, oh, you're a person?
Yeah.
It's like, surprise.
And I was talking with I had a Zoom meet with Kelsey Peterson the other day, and we were talking about how we've never seen like a real sex scene on TV with a disabled person. I can think of one, and that's like Sex Education. But if you've seen that, anybody shout? Which it's like, that was a beautiful scene, and it was very like considered the way they did it, but like it pissed me off low-key after, because she left him for Otis, which is like mid as fuck, and it's like they wrote him as a villain too, so it's like, shut. Yeah. Yeah.
He sucks. It's like, here's a little taste. Now
Yeah, here's the only thing you're getting.
More sense.
Breadcrumbing.
I'm hearing a lot of you say, like, I'm hearing the word vulnerable over and over, and the word power over and over, and I'm really curious to like hear the three of you talk about the function of art as vulnerability or power or eroticism, if any of those things like resonate when you're making art or not. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So all of my art comes from a place of addressing vulnerability. I have been doing vulnerability work for like a decade now, giving workshops on it, and like the start of it was actually as a photographer, and I do intimate portraits of people. So I had like the power dynamic actually for a little bit until I became the model and decided to, do all the things that I've been doing. But what was interesting was like navigating being the one with the camera. I noticed that people did feel more vulnerable, and that's why I was able to achieve the intimate portraits that I did, because they didn't feel a power dynamic, because I am like less, it was like equal because I'm disabled. But it was great for my work. But and I love people, and it was fun to navigate that. But then switching it was a whole different thing, being the person being photographed that's disabled by people that aren't. And so there's like an extra, it wasn't a level playing field anymore. And then, but what led me to doing writing and my book on disability and sexuality was that it was like the last vulnerable thing to address with all of it. And then, like I said, became very loud about it.
Scorpio!
Hannah, how about you?
Yeah, what was your question?
I don't remember. I was hoping one of us.
I remember. Can I ask it?
Yeah, will you ask us again? Okay.
So, what is the sort of relation between?
Oh yeah.
So like, you made a movie. You just showed a movie tonight.
I made a movie.
Yeah.
You were really vulnerable.
Yeah.
That was your art. That was your story. After, do you feel powerful?
Yes. What was the question?
I loved that question that Gabriel asked, and I loved your answer.
That was
And the one that I asked earlier, which was less cool, was what is the function of art making as it relates to vulnerability
Right,
or
that was
power,
less
or it is less cool. But you might have an answer for it.
I think art is the only avenue that we have that's not only political, but it's vulnerable, It's what we can do to show real emotional truth, and I had a bunch of shit written in my phone to answer this question, Merritt, but I don't remember it. It's just like you said, but ask another question.
Well,
I can also
Gabriel
say I asked that question in all seriousness because, I think for myself, my art is like my music. I see all art as storytelling, and I'm telling my story when I do art. And when I do that, I feel vulnerable. I'm like, wow, I feel vulnerable with myself, and I feel vulnerable with the people who are consuming my art. I'm like, holy shit, I'm about to say this. What? I don't know if I should say this. I don't even know if I believe it, but I'm gonna say it. And that's scary, and that's vulnerable. And then once you do it, that song that was in the movie, Beautiful Gone Wrong, when I wrote that song, when I started performing that song, I felt so powerful. I felt so in myself and alive. I truly felt like I was gaining more life the more I play that song. And so I do think that's what art is. It's this you expose yourself, you show your guts, and then you show your guts, and nobody kills you, and you're like, holy shit, yes, I can do this. I'm powerful, and I'm here, and I'm fucking alive. And I think that's what art is to me, and that's what happened tonight to me with Hannah and Victor. Me and Victor grew up together. I know them from kindergarten, and I met Hannah. When was that? This year?
Yeah, we met at Kelsey's show, which was a very surreal experience for me because I had never, like I said, I'd never seen a movie about a disabled person, or I'd seen just that huge gap, and I went and saw Kelsey's movie, which for those of you who don't know Kelsey, she became paralyzed She was a professional dancer and became paralyzed in her 20s and had to get used to being disabled. And I was working at the film festival, and that's where I met you and Kelsey. And just like Kelsey came up, there hasn't been enough room. There hasn't been a spot yet that we can't look. There's no Harry Styles for disabled people. And once there is, maybe we could there's no one that I can look at and be like, I'm gonna be them, and it's a short-term fix for sure, because the real fix comes, like I said, through deep work on learning how to value the internal before the external, and decapitalistic conditioning. But that's kind of what I wanted to do with this, just make a movie about me, however that, Thanks, Merritt.
That's beautiful. I would love to hear now just what are you all working on now? What do you want to plug? How can we find you and your work and give you money?
I'm on a break, but I actually have books to get rid of still, so if you want one. But I'm on the internet, TristaMarie.com, Trista Marie MCG, Instagram, whatever. Doing more writing and getting back into intimate portraits for a little bit and not being on the spotlight of the camera for a little bit, but to be determined.
You could just give me hard cash. I'm also on Venmo. You could ask for my Venmo.
Will you just tell us your Venmo?
Yeah, it's Hannah Hayes, I think 07.
Y'all came here for free tonight.
Yeah, y'all. Guys, I do have to fill out my FAFSA.
Are you working on anything, Hannah?
Yeah, I'm always working on something. Always got a little.
Yeah, I'm also always working on stuff. I'm currently kind of also in a sort of a down period. This December, January, not going to be doing much. But yeah, I got 2 EPs I'm going to try and release in the next year. A Cripples Dance production in the fall. Yeah, stuff.
Yeah. Music is so good.
So I go by Freak, Freaque, streaming everywhere, I think.
Brilliant.
Yeah, at Freak DOM on social media. And then also A Cripples Dance is the dance production, and that's just at A Cripples Dance.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, the 3 of you, for a really cool conversation. Appreciate you so much. Clap, clap, clap.